Hello all. We're just going to give it a few more minutes while we have people joining us for the coffee hour to chat about the upcoming Newport Creek area drainage study that the city of Ann Arbor will be doing. So make sure you have a warm cup of coffee in your hand, or if tea is your preference. And we'll go ahead and get started in a few minutes. Well, it's 2 minutes after 12, and I want to be respectful of everyone's time. Thank you all for joining us for our informal information gathering coffee hour meeting to discuss the City of Ann Arbor's Newport Creek area drainage study. No, my computer is not working. Let's see, there we go. Before we dive in, just a few rules for discussion. As you may note, all attendees are muted at this time except the hosts of the meeting. We will be having some discussion at the end of the presentation, so please raise your hand by using the controls on screen, and we will unmute you. Or if you'd rather put your comments or questions into the chat, we welcome that as well. Screen share is off and your video camera is off. We will have a map available on the screen at the end of the presentation for discussion purposes. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and will be available on the city's project website for this project. So in case you missed it, or if you want to share it with your neighbors, that information is available. And just kind of a note at the end, please be respectful of others' time and statements. We are all working towards the common goal of improvement in this creekshed area. And we want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to share their questions or comments or experiences. I would like to introduce the project team, people behind the scenes that you may or may not see on screen. My name is Jennifer Lawson. I am the project manager. I am the water quality manager for the City of Ann Arbor in the systems planning unit. I also have with me Heather Safarth, who is our community engagement specialist, also in the systems planning unit. She's moderating this session for us. We do have Harry Sheehan with us, the Deputy Water Resources Commissioner's Office. He has been sharing his time and expertise with us as we look at opportunities to create a drainage district in this area. Then we do have two individuals that are our engineering consultants. Lynn Seymour is our project lead and Stephanie Petrello as our project analyst that are working behind the scenes on this project, gathering data, completing analysis, and providing recommendations at the end. So the big question, why are we here? There are severe extreme flows at the downstream end of Newport Creek, and we are looking at opportunities to address stream bank erosion that is occurring throughout the creek shed, affecting the banks. We're looking for opportunities for water quality improvements. Newport Creek does outlet into Barton Pond, and we recognize that both from an ecological standpoint as well as a drinking water standpoint, we do want to have water quality improvements that could be implemented. And then many of you may remember about 11 years ago when the culvert at Newport Road was washed out. We are interested in continuing to protect that culvert that we had to replace. It's new, it was built very, very well, but we still want to look at addressing those extreme flows that are coming down and the flashy flows coming from the upper reaches of the creek shed. So this project has several things, several tasks that will be completed throughout the entirety of the project. As I mentioned, evaluation of the creek banks for stream bank stabilization opportunities, evaluation of existing stormwater detention for performance. Many of the neighborhoods in this drainage area were built with stormwater detention ponds or retention ponds, and our engineering team will be ensuring that those ponds are functioning as they should be, because that may be one of the downstream impacts that we're seeing. There's also going to be an evaluation of upland areas for new stormwater detention. This is ponds that maybe could possibly be implemented, be built as new facilities to address areas that maybe were built without any stormwater detention. And then we will be doing an in-stream hydraulics analysis and looking at pinch points in the creek that may cause excessive flooding, overflows based on pinch points, so undersized culverts, impediments or impeding flows within the creek shed. So the outcomes of this project, what is it that we're going to see at the end of this project? Recommendations for stream bank stabilization, recommendations for stormwater management opportunities. Those two do go hand in hand. And any potential projects recommended will be included in the city's capital improvement plan. And that's the long-term plan that the city has basically 20 years out. What needs to be built? What can appropriately be funded? One item to note that all projects in the city are evaluated across the entire needs of the city. So we may have projects that rank very high and we don't have funding, or projects that maybe rank medium and we do have funding for. And so there is an evaluation process that does occur. So what's going on right now? What are the next steps? Many of you may have seen our engineering consultant actually walking the creek. They were out there last week. They will continue to walk the creek area, looking at stream bank stabilization, erosion, and then they will also be driving it within the neighborhoods and evaluating the existing stormwater detention facilities over the next few weeks. Ultimately, though, we are looking at a future presentation, probably in late spring, similar to this online virtual coffee hour that we're doing, where we will present the findings and those potential recommendations. With that, I do want to open it up. And I've given you the background. I've talked a little bit about why we're here, what's going on. But this meeting really is to have a discussion with you as residents that live within the drainage area or residents that live along the creek. We are looking right now just to gather information from you, gather your comments, gather your questions. If it's a question that can be answered right now, we would love to be able to have that dialogue with you. So I am going to click to a screen for the drainage area boundaries. Just to note, there were about 750 postcards that were sent out to everybody who lives in this drainage area. So many of you may be surprised to know that there is a creek in this area. You didn't know that you lived in this drainage area. But we did want to make sure that people were kind of aware of where that drainage area lies and what some of the impacts are. So with that, Heather, I'm actually going to turn it over to you to facilitate any discussion if you have any hands up or comments that would like to be addressed.
Sure, we don't have any in yet, but I would like to encourage people, if you do have questions or thoughts that you want to share, that you can put that into the chat function and I'll read those out loud. Or if you want to raise your hand, then we can unmute you and you can just ask your question verbally. So either way we can go. So please feel free to ask questions or share thoughts at this moment.
Heather, it looks like Lynn Baldwin has her hand up on screen.
Oh, great. Okay. Go ahead. I'm going to unmute you. So go ahead.
Okay, thanks. First, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes, hi,
Okay.
Lynn.
Hi, I'm really glad you're doing this because, as Jen knows, I've reached out to her numerous times. The creek runs through our backyard. We've lived here for about 8 years and have seen just an incredible amount of erosion. We've probably lost 10 trees, probably have another 10 that are in jeopardy of falling. You know, the bank is basically vertical. Our backyard has flooded 3 or 4 times, and our backyard goes all the way to Huron River Drive. And so the culvert under Huron River Drive, basically my husband and son take care of it, because otherwise our backyard would flood more. So, you know, we're really seeing the impact of this in our yard.
And just for reference, everyone, Lynn lives, I don't know if you can see that purple dot that I just drew on the screen, but she is the very downstream parcel that backs up to the railroad, Huron River Drive area.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just wanted to share my experience. Thank you.
Yeah, thank
Thanks,
you.
Lynn.
And then David has a question. David, if you feel like unmuting yourself, you can ask it verbally, or you can put it into the chat.
I'm unmuted, so can you hear me okay?
We can. Yep. Thank you.
Excellent. I echo Lynn's comments. I'm glad that the city is looking at this. We're at 1727 Newport Creek Drive. And so our backyard sort of backs up to the Skyline baseball field. And I believe that when they built Skyline, you know, it made a lot of the drainage issues probably a lot worse than they were before. And so on a moderate rain, our backyard floods to the point where we could have 5 or 6 feet of water in the yard. And we've continually tried to clean out the stream. We built some retaining walls with sandbags and other materials to try to hold the water in. The previous owners of our house put in a drainage ditch and a couple backyards to help it out, but it's still, you know, you're lucky if you know, in Lynn's case, if their backyard only floods once in a while, we can guarantee we can put a canoe back there and paddle around in our backyard. So it's a major issue. I guess my wife said there were some people walking around looking in our backyard today. So that's good that people are surveying it. I don't know if there's any other information I can provide to help with this process.
I put a purple dot on the map. Is that about the proximate area that your house is? Baseball fields kind of behind.
Yeah, so
Yep.
Kind of even right at the very end of the cul-de-sac is where we are. Yeah, right there.
Yeah, our house is the
Perfect.
center of the cul-de-sac, and it's sort of a pie-shaped lot. And so if you look right up, you'll see the baseball field, and the creek runs. What would that do? It'd be south of the baseball field, you know, down the hill.
So all the drainage water from Skyline comes directly at us down a huge hill.
And so our backyard, our neighbor's backyard, you know, they've also done a lot of work to mitigate the, you know, the issues, and kind of going along that whole lane there has big issues.
Duly noted. We'll add that to the data. We
Okay.
may reach out to you.
Yeah,
That's actually one thing I do want to note in the comments section or in the chat function. Obviously, because we're not in person, we don't have a sign-in sheet that we can use. If you could please put your name and email address for in the chat, so we do have a record of how to reach you.
I would
Thank
say
you.
that I'm not sure if I'm speaking for Lynn here, but I would say that any photos that are concurrent with a storm event that show the flow and the water level reached would be helpful, either photos or videos. It just helps calibrate the model.
So if anybody has photos to share then with our team, that would be great.
Yeah. I mean, when the weather breaks and we get a rainstorm, that might be a good time to take them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, we have a question from Valerie Brader, which reads, would the intent be to identify solutions to be funded from general city funds or a separate drainage district with projects to be funded just from this area?
The city funds stormwater projects out of our stormwater utility fund, which is a part of your water bill. And so it would not be funded out of general fund. Any potential improvements addressing the stormwater management system would be paid for out of the stormwater utility. It's a very good question. Thank you.
And we're getting emails coming in.
Wonderful. Thank you all for your emails. We will have a summary sent out to everyone who does add their email to our email list. We are having a series of these coffee hours. We had one yesterday, this one, and then we have another one tomorrow evening. So we'll collect all of the attendees' contact information. We will also have all of this information available up on the project website, which as we are concluding, why is it not?
Here's another question coming in. Are there any particular pavements or landscaping that we should consider using or an incentive for installing them to help mitigate these problems?
On a smaller scale, absolutely. The city stormwater utility does allow credits for individual property owners who install, I'll say, methods on their property to infiltrate stormwater. That could be a rain garden, that could be a rain barrel, porous pavement, green roof, any of those. And we do have a program that encourages and even teaches our property owners within the city of Ann Arbor methods on how to do that. If you are interested in that, this is actually a link off of our city's website, a2gov.org/storm, STORM. Or if you are looking for further information, certainly shoot me an email. I can get you to the correct person. But there are small credits that are available on your stormwater bill to put in those property-based individual stormwater management techniques.
Okay, any other questions? Here's something that wasn't quite phrased as a question, but I wonder if the team wants to address it. And it's the statement from Lynn that they've had a quote that it would be 50,000. It would not solve the long-term issues. They've also been told that it's water of the state, so we're not supposed to be mitigating.
So Lynn, that actually brings up a good part of what this project will entail. So Lynn is correct. This creek is not owned by the city. It is not a county drain at this time. It is considered waters of the state, and that state being the state of Michigan, EGLE, which is the Office of Energy, Great Lakes and Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, my apologies. So they do have the official jurisdiction over the creek at this time. One of the outcomes of this project is kind of a behind the scenes factor, where we are looking at the possibility of creating a drainage district wholly encompassing the Newport Creek drainage area, which would allow the city to work with the county for improvement opportunities. And it removes the jurisdiction from the state of Michigan, and it makes it under the jurisdiction of the County Water Resource Commissioner's Office, which Harry is kind of why Harry's on the team. But we do have a multitude of county drain districts that we work throughout the city. And that does enable us to actually get boots on the ground and do improvements within this creek shed. So Lynn, thank you for that. That is one of the other, again, behind the scenes outcomes for this project.
All right, I don't see any more questions at this moment. I'll give another minute for people to raise their hands or chime in through chat if they want. There are a couple of recommendations. One is to recommend that we contain both something about the issue and individual measures when we communicate next time. And then Lynn mentions that they have photos. They do not currently have photos of the flooding, but have provided multiple photos to both the city. So maybe we can dig that up if somebody at the city has them. And
I do have all of the information that Lynn has submitted.
Oh, okay, great. Great.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, I see no other hands raised or any other questions that have come in.
Well, I thank you all for joining us. Again, super casual coffee hour. I'm glad that we were able to have this dialogue and collect information from you. On that website that I have up here on the screen, there's a link to my email if anything further comes in. Look for communications to come from the city if you put your email in the chat, and we really appreciate your time. And we look forward to presenting the recommendations and results in the next several months. So thank you all.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll leave this open just for another minute or two if anybody wants to add their email. I think most people have. But if you haven't had a chance, please feel free to put that in the chat now.
Otherwise, we'll wrap it up. Thank you guys. And project team, if you could stay on, we'll chat for a second.
You gonna feed the dog first?
Oh my goodness gracious, she wanted to join this meeting so badly.